It's a good ball played in for Tony Morley. Oh, he missed it! It is! Peterwell! Villa in the lead!
Good evening, Aston Villa fans, and welcome to the Villa Forever podcast. I am your host, Chad Williams. Please subscribe. Make sure to smash the like button on this podcast, and you can follow me on all audio platforms, including Spotify, Amazon, and Apple. Let's spread awareness of Duchenne muscular dystrophy. This evening, I'm joined by my special guest, Frankie Maguire, who is the host of All Villa, No Villa. And Frankie has been a regular on my podcast. It's been amazing seeing the growth of both of our channels. After a Champions League game away in Monaco, in the Mediterranean, Aston Villa return to Premier League action on Super Sunday against the Hammers. After a disappointing defeat in Monaco, Aston Villa need a reaction, and on Sunday, it is an important game for different reasons. On Sunday at Villa Park is a 4:30 p.m. kickoff. The last time Aston Villa played West Ham, it was in the FA Cup third round. We was victorious in the 150th anniversary match. We come from a goal from behind. It finished 2-1 to Villa. It was Graham Potter's first game in charge of West Ham. It's great to have you on the show, Frankie. How are you this evening?
I'm all good. Thank you very much, Chad. Thanks so much for having me on again. I always enjoy chatting with you.
It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I had the pleasure to be on your show a few months ago. I enjoyed that interview.
Had a really good time. That went down really well.
So let's talk about the Monaco game. And I'm still massively upset about it. So what do you make of the Monaco game?
Yeah, it was... So I've seen a lot of people say that Villa were really rubbish. I don't think Villa were, actually. I think we gave away a sloppy goal to start the game. You know, Tyrone Mings passed it straight into the Monaco midfield. Then they get a corner, they score from it. It's annoying that once again it's the first shot on target and we concede the goal. It just seems to be a running pattern this season. But I actually thought for the first 60 minutes, Aston Villa looked like we were on the brink of a goal, and we had a couple of really good chances. You know, Watkins should have scored at the end of the first half. Morgan Rogers had a really good effort at the start of the second half. It felt like we'd get into the final third lot and just the final ball wasn't quite there sometimes. But I thought if this continues for 90 minutes, I feel like there'll be another big chance to come. Unfortunately, I think where it went wrong is when Unai Emery said it himself. It's when he made the substitution of bringing John Duran on to play alongside Ollie Watkins. And it just feels every single time we've ever done that, the team loses its shape and its balance.
It don't work. It doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. And we saw that at Tottenham earlier this season. I think we were 1-1 at the time. Brought Duran on to play alongside Watkins. The midfield lost all shape, and Spurs went on and won 4-1. Other examples, West Ham away last season, that he ended that. He brought off Duran at half time. It just does not seem, they don't seem to have an understanding of it, of what to do really when the two of them are together. Look, it's something that he probably has to keep on trying in his own head, because they're two such quality players, and you'd love to see them work together. But it just feels at this stage it doesn't work. And I think once that substitution was made, for the last half an hour of that game, Villa just looked pretty poor. So it's a shame because I think Villa were actually doing okay. We were not as bad as I think a lot of people have been saying, but I think in that last half an hour is where it did get bad and couldn't pass the ball out from the defence. Really, it was just a bad end to the game.
It's one of those games where it just wouldn't go in. Bad day at the office.
Yeah.
We just didn't take our chances.
Yeah.
There's fine margins in football.
Absolutely. And that's been a story for Aston Villa quite a bit this season. You know, we tend to concede the first shot we face and then we miss big chances. It's just been a funny season like that.
I don't know if you've seen it, Frankie, but I've seen Tyrone Mings' interview. And I like the way that he didn't make any excuses. He said it as it is. And, I know they'll say about like tiredness, but you can't always use that as an excuse.
Yeah. I mean, I love Tyrone Mings. I think he's been a fantastic player for Aston Villa, and I think we'll always love Mings. I think, he's stepped up really well since Pau Torres left. Obviously, he can't replace Pau Torres' ball playing ability. I don't think there's very few defenders in the world who can do what Pau Torres does on the ball. But then there's actually attributes Mings has brought to the defence that Pau Torres doesn't have, like his muscularity, his up and atom sort of nature. I think
winning aerial duels.
Exactly, winning aerial duels. The amount of times he heads the ball away now as well. So that's that's been good. But I think talking about the tiredness aspect, I think it is tough. I mean,
played a lot of games.
Yeah, I mean, when we played Monaco, it was our third away game in 6 days. Everton away, Arsenal away, and Monaco away. And bearing in mind, the Arsenal game was late on a Saturday. The Monaco game was early Tuesday. So, and that Arsenal game, considering the fight back Villa had to have and the last 20 minutes of all-out defending, that was exhausting. And then, look, these guys are peak fitness athletes, but even then, they are going to feel it. So just those sort of marginal gains, Monaco didn't play as many games as Villa did. So maybe they can just pull out a little bit extra energy where they need it. The Villa just couldn't quite reach. But yeah, I think that's been, Newcastle saw it last season when they're in the Champions League. I think Villa, we've actually coped better than Newcastle did. But we probably have seen moments this season where games after the Champions League, midweek games in the Premier League, we've not been really performing as well. And I think that just is a sign that Europe is difficult to balance with the Premier League.
And also, it's a missed opportunity. On Wednesday, the Celtic game now, it becomes a must-win game. And not only that, we've got to rely on other results. We always do it the hard way.
Yeah, that I think that's been my I might as well make that my motto in life.
Yes.
Translate it into Latin as Villa do things the hard way. It's just what we do. It is a shame because I feel like we were in such a brilliant position after the first sort of 4 or 5 games, and then just that one mistake against Club Brugge. We all know what happened there, and then. The Monaco game where we just underperformed in that last half an hour. It is frustrating. At the same time, it is quite incredible for Aston Villa to be this close to the top 8, given the fact it's our first season in the modern iteration of the Champions League. We're ahead of teams like Real Madrid, Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain, various other top Bayern Munich top teams. But it does make the Celtic game a bit tougher, probably because I think it adds a bit more pressure onto us. I actually think the Celtic game is going to be a lot harder than there's a lot of fans I've seen say, sort of think, it should be a big win for Villa.
It won't be easy. It won't be easy at all.
No, it won't. No, Celtic have Champions League experience, a lot of it. They're going to be really, really up for this game and the Battle of Britain. And on top of that, earlier this season they went to Atalanta, one of the top teams in world football, drew 0-0. Celtic can get results when they need it. They have just lost. They're about to lose, I think, their best player to Rennes for 10 million. So that helps us. And they also had another player sent off. So they've lost a couple of players in that way. But yeah, I think Celtic are they're going to try and hit us on the break, and Villa have looked vulnerable on the break this season. So I think it's going to be a tough game next Wednesday.
And I think with John McGinn, I love it actually if they come back for injury for Wednesday's game. He's got extra fire in his belly being Scottish.
Yeah. I think he's a Celtic fan as well, I think.
Is it?
I think so. I think he is. He's. I feel like I've read that, but maybe I'm dreaming it. But I think he is.
And also he used to play for Hibs.
Yeah.
The St Mirren.
Yeah.
But I thought, but in the first half actually, I thought we were actually better in the second half. But with the opportunities, we were really lacking in that final third. And I think some of the decision making, that was poor, and we were very sloppy with the ball.
Yeah, that's very true. And, you know, I think that's been a story this season, in that I think when Villa get to the final third, a lot of the time, I don't feel like we're going to retain the ball, or I think we're going to sloppily give it away. That probably means we need to sign a player who plays in the final third, who is good at just holding on to the ball, a good possession-based player maybe. I think Leon Bailey struggled quite a bit this season. I think that has been a problem on the right-hand side. Philogene, obviously, that didn't really work. Bailey isn't hitting the heights he did of last season and needs to improve. You know, he just does. And I'm sure he knows that himself. And it feels like we've not solved that second striker role. We've tried Rodgers, McGinn. Daniel Marlin's coming in now. Maybe he can come in and do something a little bit different, maybe in that second striker role, like what Diaby did. Or maybe he'll go out right like Bailey. But I think that's something we're going to have to address probably in the summer. Is a player who can get in that final third and just be a bit more of a possession-based player. You know, it's one thing to have quite a bit of possession, but
we missed Douglas Luiz.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I think particularly the Douglas Luiz of the first half of last season, you're always going to miss a player of his quality. He was a brilliant player.
Yeah, also with the Monaco game as well. Monaco caused a lot of problems breaking quickly. So there's a few times when we gave the ball away, we started to look vulnerable.
Yeah. Or that happens a lot. When Aston, if you think back to the Leicester game, where we won 2-1, and if you remember, Leicester didn't really have many chances all game, but where the ball, we were playing it out from the back, and Ollie Watkins tried to do a layoff and gave it straight to the Leicester player on the halfway line, and suddenly he had an ocean of space to run into. Villa's defensive line was sort of a bit misshapen, and it just caused chaos. And I feel like in every single game Villa play, there's always a moment where, you know, Crystal Palace as well, another game where this happened. Wolves, I think I remember early this season it happened. Everton, loads of games it happens where we give the ball away a bit high up the pitch, and then we just get broken on, and we look just chaotic, and there's loads of space. And again, I think that probably comes into maybe we need to look for a few players who are just a little bit better at retaining the ball more often in our attacking half in that way, I guess.
I did notice in the Monaco game that both teams, they set up in a very similar way. So that's why I think Monaco were there for the taking.
Yeah.
Because really, I mean, they only scored that one goal. I mean, if we could have got that one goal, it might have been a different game. Yeah,
I think so. I think if we got that goal, I'd have fully backed Villa to go on and get a second as well. I mean, in fairness to Monaco, they did defend well.
You're going to get credit to Monaco.
Yeah, they did defend well, and they are a good side. You know, you look at the French league, and they're pushing into the top.
They're a top French team.
Yeah, so, and the French league as well. So, it is a high standard. It's a good league. So, it's not like the worst thing in the world to lose at Monaco. But yeah, I think you're right. I think if Villa had just got that goal, and Ollie Watkins really should have got that goal with that chance he had.
Oh yeah.
And Leon Bailey as well. I think Leon Bailey's chance was a lot better. Yeah, I think Leon Bailey. I just don't understand what he was doing. He was leaning back. He he just lacks conviction at the moment, Bailey. And I never go after Villa players. I never criticise Villa players. But I think where I'm getting frustrated with Bailey at the moment is I just feel he showed last season how brilliant he is and can be.
Yeah.
I think he probably misses Diaby. But I think, I think he does need to raise his level. He needs to show a bit more conviction in what he's doing, I think, at the moment. And
sometimes Bailey is more effective but off the bench.
He can be, yeah.
Yeah, so then I might do that with Marlon.
Yeah, exactly. I'm hoping the Marlon signing might be one where, let's say Marlon plays as a second striker like Diaby did. I think it's probably not a coincidence that Bailey's best time at Villa was when he was playing alongside Diaby.
Yeah.
And so you sort of hope that, Marlon maybe can be on the right at times. And as you say, Leon Bailey is on the bench and comes off the bench and is a game changer. And it takes the pressure of him to always be the player to have to do some magic on the right. Because that is exhausting, particularly when you're getting doubled up on all the time. And then on top of that, Marlon maybe can play in the Diaby role, and the two of them can link up and maybe bring a side out of Bailey's game that he's just not had since Diaby left. So, yeah, I'm hoping that maybe the Marlon signing might be what revitalises Bailey. We'll see.
And the other thing in the game against Monaco that I analysed, that set pieces were awful.
Oh, yeah.
Because usually the Austin McPhee were very creative. In set pieces, but there were quite a few corners and free kicks, but nothing come off from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Austin McPhee is probably sitting in a darkened room all week, staring into the distance. Might have shaved his hair off in penance because he's so frustrated with what happened. Yeah, it was very unusual for Villa. Normally, we're a very good set piece team, and our defending from set pieces has got a lot better from last season as well. So it's frustrating to see us concede from a set piece. But then on top of that, I think we had 7 corners. Every single one hit the first man. And if it didn't hit the first man, it went straight into the keeper's arms. It was mad to me that they didn't try a short corner at any point because it just could not seem to get it working.
Well, we were better off actually, probably. Look, doing the short corners.
Yeah.
Give me a better chance from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just surprised me that we didn't try that more often, given the fact it just wasn't working every time we crossed it into the area. And very, very unusual because, as you say, with Austin McPhee there, Villa usually are very productive when it comes to set pieces.
I mean, very frustrating. But the only thing I did outstanding, well, not outstanding, the one I think was the best player was probably Emi Buendia.
Yeah.
But nobody was great on that pitch. But I did notice Buendia made some good touches. And, obviously, unfortunately, he couldn't make it count.
Yeah. I think the 2 big chances Villa had, the Bailey and Watkins chances in the first half, both came from Emi Buendia charging forward and putting in a perfectly weighted through ball. I think, as you say, I think Buendia was probably our only really standout player the other night for a significant portion of the game. And it's full credit to him, because, there's pressure on him. There's these links with River Plate over in Argentina. He's not really been picked. He's not played a lot in a year and a half since his injury. And for him to step up like he did the other night and show such conviction and try to make things happen, I think that's a real credit to his, mentality. And I think Unai Emery, you would think, really praised him off the pitch for that, because all you can do is try your best. And he did try his best really clearly. And as I say, I think conviction is the word. That's what he showed, and a real belief and a will to try and make things happen. And he did make things happen. It's just a shame that when he made it happen, the players who he set the ball through to weren't able to finish it.
Because I like Buendia, he always tries. One of those players that sort of doesn't give up.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a real Argentinian sort of style, the real. I think a lot of Argentinian players are quite, you see it in the national team. They're a lot of them are just fighters, aren't they? They're really skillful. They try really hard. They're willing to suffer. Tenacity, yeah. So, and I think Emi Buendia really is in that Argentinian mold, really. And I love it. I I do like a lot of Emi Buendia's attributes, and I think it's a real shame he got that injury when he did, because I think everybody improved last season. I would have loved to have seen what he could have done last season if he just had, not had that knee injury, and just see what he could have done throughout the year. But sadly, it just wasn't to be.
And going back to the guy, I did hear Unai Emery's interview. I think he got it spot on about the mentality. I don't think they'll score quite yet. I don't think the mentality is strong enough, I would say.
Yeah, I'm sort of mixed on it. I think we've shown we've got a strong mentality in the fact, I think growing up for both of us watching Aston Villa, I think what you would always say is that Aston Villa, you always felt like you knew what would happen with Villa, in that Villa went 1-0 down at home to Tottenham. We'd then go on usually and lose 3-0. It felt like I've said a lot in the recent years, the Villa of old. If we played if we had a high pressure game against West Ham at home, we get a good win somewhere, then we play West Ham at home, and in previous years, Villa would lose or draw.
Yes.
Whereas now under Unai Emery, we tend to win. And what we also do under Unai Emery is that if we have a really bad result, like we had a few last season, the 5-1 against Newcastle, the 4-0 against Spurs, we always bounce back.
Get a reaction.
Always get a reaction. Now, this season, it's been a little bit shakier. But I think the mentality with Villa under Unai Emery definitely is massively improved on what we've ever known, really, throughout our Villa supporting lifetime. But I guess what he's suggesting is that he thinks Villa could have an even stronger mentality.
Yes.
And find a way to eke out results or deal with the press, or maybe have some kind of in-game reaction that the players have where, let's say something like, sometimes I think that when Villa play, at times Villa's players on the pitch do not react when the opposition team changes the pace and they go for the game. It's almost like I describe it as like looking at a tidal wave coming at you and just not moving. And it's almost like Villa's players at times are guilty of that. And I think that is a mentality thing. And I think that is where Villa's players on the pitch can't just rely on Unai Emery to scream at them from the sidelines. They have to know to react within the game themselves as well. So, yeah, I think there's definitely always room for improvement. But what I would say is that Villa's mentality is much, much better than I've ever known it. But we could still get better. I think that's what Unai Emery is saying.
But over time, I think we will get better. Emery's still like over 2 years into his project.
Yeah.
So he's still building.
Exactly.
Well, let's talk about I was going to talk about Graham Potter.
Yep.
So he got appointed to the West Ham manager. So what do you make of him?
Yeah, I really like Graham Potter, and I think West Ham fans should be, optimistic about where they could potentially go with him. This season is going to be hard. It is going to be a hard season for them, just because their squad's not right. It doesn't look properly balanced. They've got a lot of bad injuries. Mikel Antonio, Jared Bowen, Mavropanos is now banned for the game this weekend. And obviously, Graham Potter's going to come in with a new style that maybe some of the players aren't quite suited to. Yeah. Quite similar to what we're seeing at Manchester United with Ruben Amorim. So I think the second half of the season for Graham Potter, it's just going to be a case of get through it. But I think West Ham fans should be excited by what they see. Now, obviously, Graham Potter is from Solihull like me. He's an Aston Villa fan as well. So obviously, I have a lot of sympathy for him in that sense as well. But I think I've been to see Graham Potter teams live twice. One was when we beat Brighton 2-1 when Matt Targett scored in the last kick of the game years ago. And the other was when we beat Chelsea 2-0 at Stamford Bridge. And in both of those games, what I remember was particularly the first Brighton game, was how he's able to position his players really in interesting positions, particularly with a lot of width. And it can really make Villa or any opposition team look very static. But the problem is they're very good at playing around Graham Potter teams, but it always feels like in that final third, they can't carve out chances very well. So I wonder if in the last 2 years, maybe he's looked at that since he left Chelsea and whether he's worked on it and figured out a way to deal with that, because that was a big problem for him at Chelsea. I think it was also a problem at Brighton. It's just that carving that chance when they get in the area. I think this weekend is going to be interesting because West Ham will have had a full week of practice with him, full week of his training methods, and they'll have learnt a thing or two from playing us in the FA Cup as well. I still think Villa are favourites for it, but I dare say West Ham are going to come in and probably give us a bit more of a tougher game than we're probably anticipating.
Because this time, we're going into this game, West Ham got Graham Potter going to have more time to do his homework.
Yeah.
So he sort of knows what to expect. But I think what Villa will do now, I think, who knows? I mean, who knows Emery? We might tweak our tactics like that.
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if Emery did that. I'm fascinated to see who he picks in the team. He sounded annoyed the other night with some players. I don't know who he didn't name anyone, but you can assume who some of them might be. Interesting to know with Celtic coming up whether he starts Duran. But what I think he's going to do is start Duran against Celtic and start Watkins against West Ham.
Yeah, that would be what he's doing.
And I think he should start Maatsen this weekend because I think this is the type of game where we need a fullback who is more progressive in the final third, gets to the byline. I think it was a mistake to start him against Arsenal. I didn't think that was the game for him.
It gives more energy going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to have him and Dean there at left back because the two of them are super left backs and they offer slightly different things. But yeah, I think where I'd be cautious is that, as I say, I think West Ham have got a full week of training under Graham Potter. They'll learn a thing or two from the game that they played against us in the FA Cup. But what I would say as well is that, and also, of course, we've played in midweek, which we haven't particularly done well with. But what I would say as well is that I feel like with Villa, just got to be patient, play our own game, and learn from what West Ham did, which is that they played with great width. They defended very well in the first half, but they tied in the second half and they played us in the FA Cup. They're missing Mavropanos, which is a huge miss. They're missing Jared Bowen, so they're not. It's not as strong a West Ham team as it could be. So there is a big.
Their forward. Their forward line's affected. I didn't say about the injuries and suspensions. A lot of their key players are missing apart from Paqueta. Obviously Mohamed Kudus.
Yeah.
I didn't see Rodriguez will probably play. I didn't see it. I'll see that.
Yeah, completely. They've got a few, really, as Paqueta showed the other week, he's a really dangerous player. Kudus is a brilliant player as well.
Apart from Paqueta's diving.
Yeah, God, that was really annoying, wasn't it? What embarrassing. But I think Crescencio Somerville as well. He was excellent against Villa, but then he got an injury, and I think him getting injured against Villa actually really helped us. I think, like I say, I imagine first half they'll press hard like they did last time, and I imagine they'll sit deeper and try and hit us out wide. It's just about being cool, being calm, and then second half probably is when we probably take control of the game, and that's when we carve out the chances. And we've got the players to do it, as we've shown many times before. I just would be wary of Somerville out wide again. And but like I say, I mean, with those injuries they've got, Mavropanos now been missing as well, I think it's a big chance for Villa to get a good result.
And going back to Graham Potter, I think it's a great appointment for West Ham. And it wasn't long ago, actually. He was linked with the England job before Thomas Tuchel. I think he's an ideal person. I think he'll do a good job at West Ham. It's somewhere where he can improve the football club. It's sort of team he can build on to work on the projects.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I think I wouldn't rule him out after what happened with Chelsea. I think Chelsea was just a basket case. And I'm not sure there's many managers could have dealt with Chelsea that season the way, he had to. And he did a great job at Brighton.
He did.
And I think West Ham are not a dissimilar sized club to Brighton. I mean, they're in a similar ballpark, I think, in the last few years in the Premier League. And I think you're right. I think West Ham probably is the type of team he needs to go to. And if they give him time, I mean, I don't love West Ham's board, the former Birmingham City board, Sullivan, and I don't particularly appreciate the bid they put in for John Duran as well, but and neither do Aston Villa. But I think if they support him properly and he gets the right kind of sporting directors around him and they sign the right players. Yeah, if they get all that right, I think West Ham have a great chance to do what Bournemouth are doing this season, do what Villa and Newcastle have been doing, and push that top 8 and start competing again because they've pushed far in Europe recently. They've won the Conference League as well. So under Graham Potter, why can't they try and do all that again?
Because with Brighton as well, he was now consistent with Graham Potter for quite a few seasons. I do enjoy the type of football he plays. And, I know that it's working tactically, it's very tactically orientated.
Yeah.
And also, I notice in games what he likes to do, depending on how the game's going, he likes to tweak tactics.
Yeah. It was, and I think we got a sense of those tactics when we played them the other week. Like I say, West Ham were they pressed hard in the first half, but they were very wide, and it was like they fell into almost like a 5 at the back. Like, so they'd have a 3 when they were playing out, but then when they were defending, they'd have the 2 wingers come straight back to a 5, and they'd bung up the middle of the pitch and made it really hard for Villa to break them down. But it felt like they just got tired in the second half. And I think, if they're able to, keep that sharpness they showed in the first half against Villa last time, if they're able to do the same thing again, but up for 90 minutes, then they're going to make it a really hard day for Villa. And as you say, I mean, that tactically, both times I've been to see his teams live, whilst Villa won both games, at the same time, you could see that the way he positions his players and allows those players to find passing channels to progress forward up the pitch is really impressive. It's just whether he can work out how to get his team scoring more goals. That's always been the problem for Potter teams that don't seem to score enough goals.
Because one of those managers, over the years, he's worked his way up.
Yeah.
Obviously, assistant coach at first. He only got his coaching badges before that. He's one of those managers who does that. Yeah.
It's a really inspirational story, for anybody who wants to do coaching. I myself want to do coaching. But he didn't go the traditional route in football. He didn't go the Steven Gerrard, Wayne Rooney route, which is to sort of walk into a job after football. No, he went and went up to Sweden. He's travelled around. He's worked his way up through the footballing pyramid and got his opportunities and taken them. And fair play to him. You can only credit somebody who does that. It is genuinely really inspirational.
And sort of football as well. But very attractive football. Possession, when I've watched him manage a few teams. As well, it's something which I observed on as well.
Yeah, definitely. They're usually a good watch, Potter teams.
So we're going to talk about Sunday then. Mm-hmm. So what do you expect from the game on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, like I say, I think West Ham will do a very similar tactic to what they did last time. I think it'll be that sort of 5 in defence when Villa are on the ball, and they'll pack the middle of the pitch. And what they'll aim to do is that when they win the ball back, they'll hope that Villa have come high up the pitch. We'll have a high line, and if we lose the ball, which we quite often tend to do, unfortunately, in our attacking half, they then break on us quickly. And that would be, let's say, Paqueta gets the ball, the striker moves forward, pulls our centre defenders, and then out wide, Crescencio Somerville, if he's fit, sprinting down that out wide. And I think I could see them trying to get it out to him a lot. Obviously, Mohamed Kudus is a fantastic player as well, so you'd expect him to be involved, but I think he's playing up front, and that's not really his strongest position. their only option at the moment is Danny Ings because Fulkrug's injured and so is Mikel Antonio. So obviously Kudus can do it, but I think he's better a bit deeper. So they do lose something there. But I think what we saw against in the FA Cup was that it felt like their conditioning wasn't great in the second half.
Mhm.
They really did tire against Villa, and it almost felt like they just couldn't handle it in the end. The way we pressed onto them, and that could, I went to the West Ham game earlier this season when we won 2-1,
Yeah.
and they were very passive under Julian Lopetegui.
And that John Duran goal,
Yeah, amazing goal,
the
amazing
hammer.
goal, brilliant goal. You're doing the hammer sign at all the West Ham fans as well. That was really funny. One of the probably the highlight of my season was on the first day of the season. But yeah, I think I expect that first half very difficult to break them down like it was last time. But second half, I feel like West Ham's conditioning probably isn't at the moment where I think Graham Potter probably wants it to be. But I think they're going to give us a tough game. But like I say, I just think their first 11 at the moment, they really could do with a lot of their players coming back. They really are missing Jared Bowen and Antonio and Mavropanos now as well for the game this Sunday. So, look, I never want to say that Villa should win a game, but in the sense of I don't want to be too confident and arrogant, but it really is an opportunity for Villa to look at it and go, we should win this, and go in there with full confidence to do it.
I think the game on Sunday, I'll actually say it's a must-win game. You look at all the teams around us. But the last few weeks, actually, results haven't really been going our way.
Yeah.
We look at the Bournemouth game. We never expected them to thrash Newcastle. So a lot of teams are in and around there. You get one win, so you've been a win. We're not far from Champions League football.
Yeah. And that's it. I think that's the aim this season, isn't it? To get European football again, because we want to be a team that is there all the time and a team that players around the world recognise as one that play in European competitions, because ultimately it means that we're an elite club, on a consistent basis and provably so by playing in Europe against the best teams. And you're right. The league this season is so competitive in the top 8. And it's really hard, but it puts pressure on because it does feel like we have to now keep winning because we've dropped a lot of careless points this season at home in games we should have won. And you look at Newcastle, Forest, Chelsea, just got to win there the week on Monday. So these teams, there's every chance of Villa lose. If they all win, suddenly the gap just starts to look a bit hard to chase them down. I think we're well positioned to get Europe again next season. I think we will get Europe next season.
We'll at least get Europa League. I'll be pleased with at least.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you'd look at the Europa League and think it as a competition we could actually win. I really think we could win that. So I wouldn't be disappointed at all if we're in the Europa League. Obviously, I really want the Champions League again. And I think 5th place this season is going to be a Champions League spot most likely.
It's 97%, I think.
Yeah. So there's big chance there. And, if Forest have any kind of slip up, if they start to, lose a bit of momentum, we have to make sure we just keep winning games. And so we can just put that pressure on to potentially chase them down. Chelsea are rocky. Newcastle just had that big loss. So who knows? It's very unpredictable season this year.
It's wide open.
Yeah.
Also, the game on Sunday, I like us to start the game well.
Yeah.
Because even the last time we beat West Ham, the first half was awful. So I like us to start well.
Yeah. I think that first half was the worst performance I've ever seen under Unai Emery. It was by far we were awful. I was amazed we won that game.
So we've got to take advantage as well.
Yeah.
It's a very important game. And the last time we beat West Ham, it wasn't the easiest game. But I think West Ham want to get revenge on us.
Yeah.
We not about the FA Cup last time.
Yeah, exactly. They will want revenge, and they'll want to start building momentum under Graham Potter as well, and aiming for a top half finish this season if they can do it. But yeah, it's as you say, like last season, Villa used to score very early all the time. This season, we don't do that, weirdly. So yeah, it'd be nice if we did score early and didn't have to keep chasing games, which is quite often the case.
They're going to be more solid at the back because I think we conceded too many cheap goals.
Yeah.
And that goal difference, it needs to massively improve.
Yeah. It's ridiculous that our goal difference is -1. It's hilarious when you look at the top half of the Premier League. It just doesn't make sense to me that Villa are -1 and yet top 8. And then you look at Spurs' goal difference at one point it was like 14, and they're like 15th in the league. It's just absolutely mad, really. But I think Aston Villa this season, we just concede too many goals. If we're not going to get Champions League this season, it will be because we concede too many goals, and it's really, really frustrating because we are, we just don't seem to be learning our lesson. We just concede the same type of goal all the time.
And Martinez, I bet he's not very happy either.
Oh yeah, because
he's conceded.
Yeah, he's a player who best goalkeeper in the world, and he's a player who counts how many clean sheets he gets a season. I'm sure he does, and I'm sure he's massively frustrated at how many goals Villa are conceding. And to be honest, if it wasn't for him, we'd have conceded a lot more.
I agree. And his game on Sunday, I think you go back to that first half in the FA Cup game. West Ham looked dangerous on the counter-attack.
Mm-hmm.
But they like to stretch defenders. You got the likes of Mohamed Kudus. He likes to go past players. And when he gets down on the wing, if he gets into that byline, he likes to cut it across.
Yeah, he's. I think Kudus is a fantastic player, and if you were to do like dream signings from Premier League teams, I think for me Kudus would be very much up there. Could you imagine him playing in that second striker role for Aston Villa?
Just imagine.
He'd be very, very good, wouldn't he? He's a very talented guy, Mohamed Kudus, for sure.
Well, before he went to West Ham, we were linked with him.
Yeah, we were. I think he'd have been a top signing for us. And they got him for pretty good money as well. I think he was about £40 million, which I don't have £40 million in the back of my pocket, but in football terms, it's I think he's worth more than that. I genuinely do. He's a real quality player.
I'm talking about transfers. Let's talk about the John Duran situation.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you think John Duran? Do you think he will leave? And what would be the suitable thing to accept?
Yeah, it's getting to the point with Watkins and Duran that this town ain't big enough for the two of them. Just because they're both exceptional strikers, and there's very few Premier League teams that John Duran would not be starting for. That just is the reality. He's a fantastic young striker. He's very different to Watkins. They both have very different skill sets, and both equally excellent in their own ways. I would be really gutted to see Duran go, just in the sense I really am excited to see what he does with his career, because I just think he could be one of the best, if not the best, strikers in world football in the very near future. But ultimately Villa are still under PSR. That's the truth. And if you were to think which player might command a really, really large fee, I think given his age, given his talent, given what he's done for Villa already, the goal against Bayern Munich, Villa should set the stall out and say, all right, you want him? £80 million.
Well, the thing is, you look at his stats. In this season, in all competitions, he scored 12 goals.
Yeah.
So he's in over double figures.
Yeah. If he started every single game for Aston Villa this season and played pretty much 90 minutes in all of them, his goal tally would be mid double figures. I think he'd have a load of goals in the Premier League itself. So he could be rivaling someone like Isak, the amount of goals he's got. But so that's the thing. It's just he is good enough now to start games, and it's a difficult situation because him and Watkins don't really feature together too often. I don't think he's going to go in January. I hope not. I don't think he will. But I think in the summer, I think if I was to put a bet on it, I'd say he does go for a huge fee. It's not the end of the world because, as we've seen with Grealish, there is life after it, and Villa can then reinvest that money, and we can kind of see what Monchi and Unai can do to improve the wider team, I guess. But at the same time, there is also a question mark. Some might say Watkins is approaching 30. He's probably at his peak. Duran's at 21, but and has a contract to 2030. So I don't know. I don't know. Maybe there's a world in which Watkins is the one who goes. But either way, if one of them goes, we still have an absolutely brilliant striker remaining. And if either one of them goes, I wish them both massive luck. But if I was to bet on it, I'd say, yeah, I think I could imagine a world in which Duran goes this summer.
Do you think what I'm worried about is if Duran goes, we need to make sure we get a replacement.
Yeah.
Because if Watkins gets injured, we're buggered.
yeah. For sure. I think they would get a replacement. I think I'd hope so. I mean, the player who sticks out to me is Liam Delap at Ipswich, and I think there'll be a lot of clubs interested in him. And I think he has elements of both Watkins and Duran in his game. I think he's got attributes to the two of them slightly. So, and he's a player who I think has a very, very high ceiling. And I'd be very interested to see what he would do in a team that, creates more than what Ipswich do. And I think were he at a team like Villa, I could imagine he'd score loads of goals. So, yeah, I think that I wouldn't be surprised if that's a player we're linked with. Whether we get him, I don't know, because, who knows? Arsenal's, Liverpool's might also want a player like that as well.
I was reading, Frankie, that at the moment, John Duran, he hasn't got a release clause in his contract.
He hasn't?
Okay. That's what I saw as well.
So it would take a lot of money to get to sign him.
Which is good. That's good news, that is.
Yeah. Yeah, very good news, for sure.
Actually, how much would you say, at the moment, John Duran, how much is he worth?
I think it's in Grealish territory. I think he's that level of a player, and he's so young, and he's proven he can do it against Bayern Munich and Man City, and he's scored against all of them. He bullies defences. There's question marks about, in the last season, the whole West Ham thing, and there's stories about him being difficult in training or whatever. But regardless of that, what you can say is this season he's reacted really well. He's scoring lots of goals. He seems much more involved, and he seems like just a unique character. Somebody that I think you need to accommodate him and work him out a bit. And
he's talented.
Exactly, he's a fantastically talented player, and I genuinely think he could be one of the best strikers in world football. And I would love him to stay at Villa. I really hope he does, because I just think he's so brilliant. Sure. And I think we'd have the goals he scores just make me laugh. Like, I haven't seen a player at Villa who just leaves me like open mouth like that. I mean, Grealish did it, but Duran, just with the goals he scores, it's like, this is just a throwback to old strikers from the 90s that, just took shots from anywhere and they just flew in the top corner. You're like, how has he done that? He's an amazing player. And I think money-wise, I'd say 80 million. That's probably what.
Also about maybe 84 million, maybe about 84 million.
Yeah, and transfer fees have come down recently. They're not as high as they were a couple of years ago. So it might be harder to get a really high fee for him. But I still think Villa should just set the stall out and say, this is a player who could be the best striker in world football in 1 year's time. 80 to 100 million, bid it and see what happens.
Well, I think with John Duran, in the future, actually, he could play for something like Real Madrid.
Yeah,
That's how good he
definitely.
is.
I agree. I think he could. I think he could. I could see him leading the line at a Barcelona or a Paris Saint-Germain have been heavily linked with him. That's another team I could see him at for sure.
And the reason I like him to stay at Villa as well, but with Emery, he'll keep developing him.
Yeah.
We haven't really seen the best. I think John Duran's going to keep getting better and better.
I agree. And I think there's a danger sometimes, because maybe he's in the right place, and with the right coaching staff around him and Unai Emery teaching him, who knows? He could go somewhere like a Paris Saint-Germain or a Real Madrid. The thing is, those clubs are also very cutthroat. Look at Kolo Muani. I think Paris spent almost 100 million on him or something close to that, and they've got rid of him. They don't want him, and he was only there a year and a half. And so sometimes maybe they change managers very quickly. Maybe that can be unsettling. A new manager can come in and doesn't really understand Duran's personality, doesn't understand what makes him so uniquely gifted, and maybe just falls out with him quickly and casts him aside, and it all falls apart. And I think sometimes you don't know what you got till it's gone. And I think Carney Chukwuemeka learned that lesson going from Villa to Chelsea, and maybe John Duran would see something similar. Maybe the grass isn't always greener, particularly at these at the really top clubs. It's much more cutthroat, and sometimes it just isn't actually a fun place to be. Whereas at Villa, you always get that. We love this man, and he's probably got more leeway to do what he wants at Villa than he would do at a lot of other places.
And with John Duran, he's already shown his true potential. And he's still young.
Yeah, very young.
Well, is he 21?
Yeah, 21.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about a few more transfers. We're going towards the end of the show. But let's talk about our new signings. I'll talk about Marlon first.
Mm-hmm.
So how will he improve Aston Villa?
Yeah, I'm intrigued by Marlon. I wasn't actually jumping around like massively excited by it because I've watched him before, and there's been games where I've thought he's looked excellent, other games where he's been massively inconsistent. But I think what he does do coming in is that he's a shot in the arm for the attack. I think the attack probably does need just an extra element, something a little. And I think Leon Bailey needs competition. He needs a player alongside him. And Daniel Marlon, his numbers are good. He has scored a fair number of goals at Dortmund, a lot of goals at PSV, decent number of assists. And so he comes into Villa and just has a bit of an X factor in that second half of the season. We've signed players before, Coutinho at January, Benito Carboni years and years ago in January. Sometimes those sort of players you sign in January can just come in and add a little bit of an extra element and a bit of an excitement. And I think Marlon is that player. And also, I think Daniel Marlon is a player who, throughout his career, his talent is the sky is the limit. That's how good he can be on his best day. And it feels to me like he's been searching for the right coach who has the belief in him and can bring the very best out of him on a consistent basis. And Unai Emery has shown before with players like Daniel Marlon, like, say, Danjuma, who was fantastic at Villarreal, Nicholas Jackson, who was at Villarreal with Unai Emery, like Chukwueze, who's at Milan now, who's with Unai as well. All of those players were brilliant under Unai Emery. Emery just has a way of getting the best out of players of that sort of ilk, like players who just needed someone to take hold of them and say, do this and believe in yourself more.
Yeah.
And hopefully Unai is that man for Daniel Marlon, hopefully, and brings out the level of consistency that I think he's needed to show in his career, because that's all he's lacked, really, is consistency.
So what Emery likes about him? Emery likes the fact that he can play in different positions.
Yeah.
His versatility.
Yeah. Unai loves versatility. You're absolutely right. He likes players who can fit into different roles. a lot of our midfielders can all play in different places. McGinn, Tielemans, Rogers, Ramsey,
Yeah.
Anana can play further. They all can play different positions. There's a big thing for Unai, I think, versatility. And Marlon can do that. He can play second striker, right midfield, and he can also play up front.
Support striker.
Yeah.
He can play. Yeah, got a number of different positions.
Yeah, he can.
I like Marlon as well. I like his pace. He's got pure pace. I don't think we've been lacking a player like that for quite a while. Somebody's got the confidence. Just go past players.
Yeah.
Like, like the fullbacks, take on the fullbacks.
Yeah, for sure. I think we've needed a bit more of that this season. And if you think about it, Philogene, he had that great game against Bayern, but it didn't work. And every time he came on the pitch, it never looked like he had the confidence to beat his man. Whereas Daniel Marlin, we sold Philogene for 20 million plus. We've bought Daniel Marlin, a proven Dutch international who's played in the Champions League final for about the same amount of money. I think that's a really good trade-off, to be honest. And I have more confidence that if Bailey's not playing and Marlin is, I have more confidence in Marlin to do something in a game that Philogene just wasn't doing in the first half of this season.
And as well, he's a good replacement for Moussa Diaby.
Yeah.
I know it's for PSR reasons, but I did find the Diaby transfer strange because I actually really rated Diaby.
Yeah, I know. I think he'd have had a good second season as well, and we've missed him. We've missed him.
Really had for a year, didn't we?
Yeah. We've missed his movement. His link up with Bailey was really good, and his versatility as well. He could play on the right. We have missed him, and it's just frustrating that Villa have just progressed so quickly. We're in UEFA competitions. We've had different rules for UEFA, squad cost ratios. We've had PSR in the Premier League. It's just frustrating that, because we've advanced as quickly as we've kind of been punished for it as well, that we've had to sell some of our best players. But, that's then on Villa to up their revenues. And as we saw today, they're in the Deloitte Money Football League table now. So clearly that's going in the right direction. So hopefully this is, we're at the start of a period where we won't have to keep selling our best players.
It's a real turning point.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And as well, I like him as well because he's like a flair type player. Daniel Marlin.
Yeah, he is. Yeah. It's an exciting player. It's an exciting attacker. And all teams need exciting attackers to get the fans off the feet and to give the opposition something to think about. And if one piece of skill from him this season pulls it across and it leads to a goal that wins us a game, 3 points, and means we get Europe, that's a brilliant signing.
And let's talk about what Lighty saw with him. Andres Garcia.
Yeah.
We saw him from Levante. So what do you make of him?
Yeah, so I don't know a great deal about Andres Garcia, to be honest. What I hope is that it's evidence of what Monchi has always been good at, or generally from a lot of his career been good at, is finding gems. So Monchi was the man who brought Dani Alves to Europe from Brazil.
Yes.
So that's a right back he found who turned out to be one of the greatest right backs of all time in world football. And so you look at Andres Garcia and you hope that he's seen something. And Villa's data team, we have a team of incredible scouting, that can see underlying stats that we simply don't have access to. And you'd like to think that all that team have come together, identified something within Andres Garcia and thought, now is the right time to get this man because he has professional football experience. He's 21, so he's a good age to learn.
Well, actually did say he's a right back, but he plays as well as a right winger as well.
Exactly. And that's what Villa need, because I love Cash because I just love all Villa players, but I do think if you were to be critical of Cash and where he could improve his game, is when he gets into the final third, he can't really beat a man very well. He does tend to cut back and pass it, which is fine. That's a lot of right backs can't always beat a man, but Andres Garcia looks like a player who's probably a little bit better in the final third. A player who can score a goal. There's a reel of him scoring screamers. A player who can probably beat a man more consistently than Cash can. And somebody who can probably work a pass going forward, shot creating actions, all those type of things. So to have a player like that who can come in and be an understudy to Cash, can get minutes in the Premier League in the second half of the season, and then with a view to next season, maybe working his way into being our starting fullback and adapting to the Premier League. I think that's an exciting signing. And look, it's not a lot of money either. So if it doesn't work, we haven't lost a lot.
And if 6 million,
nothing. It's nothing.
6 million euros, yes, it's cheap.
So if it works, and in a few years' time, Man City go, we want a top fullback. Let's get Andres Garcia. Well, we've made millions and millions and millions on him. And if it doesn't work, well, 6 million in today's money in football, you still sell him for a decent fee, and we wouldn't lose much at all. So no, I think it's an exciting signing. I can't wait to see how he does.
I think it's actually strange, actually, about the Djokovic situation.
Yeah.
Because actually, I'll see it before the Djokovic here.
Yeah.
So he didn't get any minutes at all.
Yeah. It's a funny one, Nadalkovic. I massively rate him. I think I've seen things in his game that make me think he could be a devastating fullback. If he gets into the right team and he plays enough minutes, I'm certain that his speed and power as he goes forward really does frighten defenders, but he's only been able to show it in snippets for Villa. I think what happened with him is that I went to the West Ham game at the start of the season and he came on for about 20 minutes and played it right back. And Mohamed Kudus just had him on toast. And he gave the ball away in a dangerous position as well. He looked very nervous. But that's actually very understandable. It's your first game in the Premier League. Of course, it's going to be nerve-wracking. But I think Unai Emery loses trust quite quickly in players sometimes. And maybe seeing things in training that he thinks he's not ready, and that's fine. Maybe he thinks he just needs a loan. And who knows? Maybe he could go, say, somewhere like Wolfsburg on loan, and he's there for 3 months, or he's there for a full year, and he has a great time of it. And we go, well, that's our fullback. We could sell him for a massive amount of money, or maybe we could bring him back to Villa and be our starting fullback competing with Andres Garcia and Matty Cash gets sold. So it's a bit of a win-win situation for Villa that we have two really up-and-coming fullbacks in Garcia and Nedeljkovic.
But really, you look at our squad. What we said about John Duran and that, we got some real gems coming through.
Yeah, we do. A lot of young players, yeah. Like Anana's only 22 as well.
Yeah. And going back to, we spoke about Monchi.
Yeah.
I only met Monchi in the Villa store.
Really?
Yeah, and a few weeks ago. I think it was after Christmas. And I was looking for new training gear in the Villa store. I had a photo with him. Monchi's really nice. He spoke to me.
Oh, amazing! Is he? He's English speaking, isn't he? He does speak English, I think. Yeah. So
and he was buying his own gear there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was doing it as well.
That's awesome. You got to meet him because he's a real legend in world football.
Well, he's supposed to be a goalkeeper.
Yeah,
Spanish goalkeeper.
Yeah, and I mean, I've been following Spanish football since about the year 2000. I've known about Monchi for years and years and years, and I think it must be really exciting to have met him.
Oh yeah, it was. He said Happy New Year to me. I'll send you my other photo. He said that's fine.
Oh, great!
So I met Emery's right-hand man.
Yeah, and you should have told him who we should sign as well.
Well, to finish, Frank, what's your score prediction for Sunday?
Yeah, I'm just going to look at West Ham's injuries, and I'm going to say, Villa don't do well after midweek games, but I'm going to say this is the week we do perform. And I think we win, I'll say 3-1.
Well, actually, I was going to say, I'm going to same as you.
Okay.
I'm going 3-1 as well.
You know what they say, Chad? Great minds think alike.
I'm going to think, actually, in the game on Sunday, we're going to give a reaction.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think we'll get back to William Wise. Well, Frankie, you've been a great guest again.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for watching. If you enjoyed this podcast, please remember to make sure to subscribe. And subscribe to all Villa Villa as well. If you haven't, make sure to smash the like button. Give it a share. And leave us a good review on audio platforms, including on Apple and Spotify. Thank you so much, Frankie, for your time.
No worries. Thank you so much for asking me on, Chad. I always love chatting with you.
I am going to wrap up this episode with Villa forever and up the Villa.